There are a ton of road vehicles in GTA 5 Online. So today I'm going to be showing you guys the top 10 best homemade rally slash off-road vehicles in the game. These include vehicles that are super fast as well as vehicles that are super fun to use off-road. If you disagree with anything on this list or have a vehicle that should be on this list, let me know in the comments. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting off, we got the Calico GTF. This is a super good off-roader in the game and it's a super underrated one. Many people don't use this for off-roading, which is pretty interesting because this thing is based off the Celica, which is a really popular rally car IRL. This thing has incredibly good performance and it has all-wheel drive, so it does really good off-road. On top of that, it's super light and nimble, so it's able to take corners super easily off-road. On top of that, because it's one of the fastest tuner cars in the game, it has a really high top speed off-road, and if you want to in some cases optimize your speed and your turning ability, you can switch between your stands so you can get the highest speed possible when you're on a straight and the best turning ability when you're taking corners. The Calico GTF is super cool. It has a ton of rally inspired customization such as roll cages, mud guards, rally liveries, as well as fog lights, which is super cool. So yeah, make sure to get the Calico GTF. It's a super underrated vehicle. Next up, we got the Sista. This thing is really good. It's not the fastest vehicle in the game, but it has really good acceleration and incredibly good turning. Because it's super light, it helps it a lot when it's off-roading, especially when it comes to close tracks off-road. This thing is super rapid when it's turning. It can change direction super quickly, which is super important when you're rallying. This thing also has a super good launch. I'm pretty sure this thing is rear wheel drive, but with the acceleration, turning ability and the launch of this vehicle, it does not seem like it. However, if you do stop when on a slope, you can have a little difficulty launching. I also want to say this thing is super fast because it's super light, so it's not the best at climbing hills because it doesn't have the necessary power to do so. This thing doesn't have the craziest off-road and rally customization, but it has super cool options such as a wide body and some liveries, and you can actually put a machine gun at the front of this car if you have an MOC, so if you want to troll your friends with the Sista having machine guns, you can. The Sista is an amazing car. It was removed and now it's back in the store, so you guys should definitely cop this. Next up, we got the Retinue Mark II. This thing is like the better version of the Sista, but unfortunately this one is not in the stores. The Retinue Mark II is basically a glow up of the Sista because it has really good acceleration, a pretty okay top speed, but incredibly good turning. It is much better than the Sista. It's super fun using this thing off-road, and obviously this thing has a little bit more power, as well as good traction off-road, as well as a really good launch. Like this thing does a super good launch. On top of that, it has a much better customization inspired for rallying and off-roading than the Sista. It's a super fun car and it's super fast, so make sure to get it. Next up, we got the Yoga 4x4. This is mainly for cosmetic as well as having fun off-road. This thing is not fast. This thing can't beat any records. This thing is super slow, but it's really fun driving this off-road because it's smooth. You just drive in a straight line and this thing goes straight instead of getting affected by bumps and going in different directions. Honestly, this thing is like a cruise, so if you want to have a good time relaxing cruising off-road or something, this is the vehicle for you. On top of that, this thing looks like a behemoth. It's literally a super cool lifted van, and because it's a Benny's vehicle, you can do a ton of customization, like how I've kept my interior a beautiful place to sit and have a nice wine, and of course listen to music because there are a ton of speakers. Again, the Yoga is not a car you should be using for performance reasons. It's just mainly to have fun off-road, so if you want to have fun, make sure to get the Yoga 4x4. Next up, we got the Sultan RS. You can get the Sultan RS by taking the Sultan to Benny's and converting it into the Sultan RS. The Sultan RS is a super good vehicle in GTA. It is all-wheel drive, it has a great amount of traction, a fairly decent top speed, and incredibly good acceleration. On top of that, because it's based off a Subaru, it's really good off-road, and it has a ton of customization, especially related to rally and off-roading. It's got like things like fog lights, some liveries that you see on really popular rally cars, as well as crazy spoilers, roll cages, full race interiors, etc. It's so fun. On top of that, the Sultan RS has an incredibly cool sound, so if you like good sounding cars, this is also a car you should be picking. On top of that, it's not even that expensive. You can get the RS without upgrades for just under like $800,000, which is super good and super worth for the money. So definitely get the Sultan RS, it's super good. Just before we carry on with the video, I do want to say that 95.3% of the people who watch my videos are not subscribed. So make sure you subscribe because I'm going to be giving you guys content on all the new things in this DLC as fast as possible. So yeah, let's get back into the video. Next up, we got the Sultan RS Classic or the Sultan Classic. These both are incredibly good Subarus. Basically, they're like the Sultan RS, RS but with a little bit of a glow up. These things also have a ton of customization related to rallying and off-road. Backed with these customizations, these things have incredibly good performance. These things have an incredibly good launch with no traction loss, super good acceleration, and a fairly decent top speed. Also, the Sultan RS Classic is a tuner's car, so if you get the Sultan RS Classic, you can stance it so you can optimize its top speed as well as its turning when you need it. Obviously, this doesn't go over the Sultan Classic because it's on a tuner's car, but honestly, if you have any one of the two, you should definitely pick one of them for off-roading. They're super good. Next up, we got the Yosmite Rancher. You can get this thing by taking the Yosmite to Benny's and converting it into the Rancher. This thing is super cool, especially because it's a really interesting good version from Benny's. Many people don't know about it, so it is an underrated pick. On top of that, this thing is super good at climbing. It has good acceleration, a really good top speed, and incredibly good traction. On top of that, because it's a Benny's car and it's an off-road vehicle, it has a ton of customization related to off-road. You can put like net doors, lights, bull bars, so much shit. And obviously you can put a ton of liveries. This thing is super good. It's one of my favorite off-road vehicles in the game just because of how customizable it is and how good it performs. So yeah, if you want to get a good off-roader, make sure to get the Yosmite Rancher. Next up, we got the Tempesta. This is a pretty interesting pick, but this thing is so good off-road, it does not make sense. This thing has really good traction, incredibly good acceleration, and a super high top speed because the Tempesta is just fast. Backed with off-road tires, this thing is a beast. It barely loses traction, it has super good turning, it is also super good at off-roading, mainly because it's all-wheel drive. Honestly, the Tempesta is insane. It's super good at climbing, super high top speed, super good acceleration, really good launch, good amount of traction. This is a car you should be picking. It's really good. And last but not least, we got the Uranus Lopez. This is an unreleased car, but this is definitely a homemade rally or off-road vehicle. This is because this thing comes in a full standard look. You can change this thing into a super good rally car with lights, liveries, etc. It's super cool. But unfortunately, I can't talk too much about the performance of this vehicle because I haven't driven it. This is someone else's content. So from what I'm seeing, this thing isn't going to be the fastest vehicle, but it's going to have really good turning and a pretty decent acceleration. So when this thing does drop, you should definitely get it. It's like $1 million, and honestly for like a rally car, that's super good. Let me know in the comments what you thought of my list. Do you disagree with any vehicle on this list, or what vehicle you would add to this list?